I'll just open it up to questions.
Coach, how much does your receiver, Josh Reynolds, thrive under the radar, but just still comes up in really big moments when his number's called?
Yeah, Reynolds, he really came up big for us the other day, and I would say he is notorious for that. In a good way. He does kind of fly under the radar, but he's a guy that we, you know, um, I kind of tell him all the time. It's like, man, the more you can do, the harder it is on you. And he's a guy he's got a ton of versatility, and we ask him to do a lot. He plays the X, he plays the Z, he can play in the heavy packages. We do a lot, and so he's a very reliable, mentally and productive wise. He does a lot. So, we needed somebody to step up in that game in that receiver room, and he really did. He really did.
And I wanted to ask about your aggressiveness, especially the 4th and 2 call with 2.5 left, under 45. What went into that decision to be that aggressive at that time?
Look, I think Fip and I have been talking about this for a while, and just we felt good about the look. But let me say this: it's.
This is in the 4th quarter, the 4th and 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about earlier. I'm sorry. Just about doing that.
Yeah.
To me, that was the time to do it. We got 3 timeouts, and I liked where we were at. I felt like we could convert. If you don't, you still have 3 timeouts and a lot more time left to potentially answer if needed. But our defense was playing pretty good too, so just felt like it was the right time to do it.
Did you, the reality is, as that ball's in the air on the next possession and goes right through Tony's hands, at that time, that's all, he just needed to catch that ball and they win the game, and you get strongly criticized for that decision, for being that aggressive. Do you think you got enough credit for succeeding, I guess, making the right call ultimately? Nobody's really talked that much about how decisive that was, but how you were right.
No, I don't. No, believe me, I don't. I don't need anything. We got a W, and look, I can make all the wrong decisions, and we win. I'm all good. I'll take it. So, we did a lot of things right. Our players. Look, we say it all the time. No matter what call comes out of it, you're making that call because you're leaning on a certain group. Offense, defense, special teams, and you're trusting those guys in the moment. And if something doesn't work out, then those guys will bail you out. And we got to do our job for them too, and give them the best game plan we can. But no, listen, you call the game as you see it, and what you feel like is the right thing in the moment, and you go with it.
Just the last question about that aggressiveness. Just I don't know if you've spoken specifically about where that comes from in your DNA. Is it Sean Payton, Bill Parcells, Pop Warner coach? Where does that come from within you?
No, I think more than honestly, I really believe it was more of an epiphany, if you will. The time I had at Miami, I just remember once I was done there, I had regrets, particularly in special teams, that I didn't use it more. We had Darren Rizzi. He's at New Orleans now. He's outstanding special teams coach. And I just remember always, it just stuck with me. And then certainly going with Sean as a coach. I'd been with him as a player. He made everything very clear. We knew exactly when criticals were going to come up, what we were going to do, how we were going to handle it. But just being under Coach Payton for 5 years and just it gives you a whole different perspective. It did me. So I think that's really where it comes from.
And did a lot of good things on defense. I'm sure the tape showed that. One thing that maybe was a little consistently negative was some of the communication issues. Sometimes you got away with it, sometimes you didn't. As you went back through the film, how correctable and how quickly correctable do you feel those issues are going forward?
Very correctable. And, there's so much of that is, there again, it just, being in that moment with where the crowd was at, it's loud, which is another reason why I'm glad we got our home opener here, because our fans are going to be going crazy this weekend with those guys coming into town. But it's just, it's different. And you try to put strain on your guys with all the speakers you can out there and all the elements that you can, but it's just not the same, as much as you want it to be that way. And, there again, look, I put a lot of that on myself. I honestly do, because you want to keep it simple enough to where you're not putting a lot of strain on your offense. But there again, you want enough ammo to go in if need be against Kansas City. Mahomes, you may need to put up. So you can't go in there so bare bone that you don't have enough ammo. But obviously it was a little much. And so we asked them to do a lot between the quarterback and Frank and the receivers and the fast motions and I think it slowed us down a little bit, and it caused a little bit of issues. Not enough to lose the game, but certainly it hurt a little bit. But those are very correctable. We'll learn from that. We'll be better. The more we do it with the guys that we have on the field, we'll just be better. So those are all correctable.
Good answer, and I wasn't going to stop you, but I was talking about the defense.
Where am I at today?
I don't know.
I'm not here today.
Which,
I'm sorry. You should have stopped me sooner and be like, "Damn, what are you doing?" You did. Thank you. I'm sorry.
some of the communication
Listen,
in the backside.
it's all correctable. It's all correctable. Because defensively, look, especially on the road, those guys can hear. And this is just a matter of those guys playing together. We had a couple of things in the safety position, nickel, and Branch is new to the party. CJ working back there with Kirby. But, man, all correctable. And so those things I'm not even sweating it. I know we'll be just fine. We'll be great. And we'll be better this week, which is encouraging.
Yeah, how do you feel like your team played on both sides of the ball?
I'm listening to this question.
Fourth quarter.
Both sides of the ball, fourth quarter. How did they play? Both sides did great. And I thought that's where we really showed up. I mean, our defense had a number of stops throughout that game, but I really felt like the fourth quarter, we come away with a big stop. And then offensively, we got that long drive. We go down there, we score the touchdown, we go up one, and that's where I just really felt like we kind of took control of that game and then didn't let it go. So I thought in the critical moments we really showed up. We played good football, and that's what we talk about doing, man. We don't need those mistakes that cost you in those moments. We need the plays that help you win, and our guys did that, really in all three phases.
So we live in an era now where obviously running backs have been devalued by a lot of teams. You guys pick Gibbs high in the draft.
Yep.
I think for the remainder of their careers, even Bijan is going to hear this comparison. So you look at his debut, you look at Gibbs' comparison to the debut. Not to compare those two, but why was Gibbs, your guy? Now that you got a chance to be around him, what's your impressions of him just going forward with his career? Have you saw the best of him at all, or what his ability can be moving forward?
Yeah, look, certainly like both of those guys. We like Bijan too, man. But we just really felt like with where we were at, we got Demo here, and we just felt like, with Gibbs, he fit what we needed perfectly. And I just think it's rare to have a guy that you really feel like in due time can be dynamic in the run and the pass game as a halfback. I just think there's so much versatility with him. So between that, he fits what we do perfectly, and he has that potential to be dynamic in both areas of, the offensive side of the football. It was too good to turn down.
This could be offense or D. Was there anybody who, as you watched the film,
You're trying to confuse me.
no, anybody who really popped, or we can look at the stats, but or anybody who's really ascending in your eyes?
Well, it's one game. It's one game. I think your eyes told you. What you saw is pretty true to form. Danny had already mentioned Reynolds. Reynolds certainly stepped up. BB, rookie, but made some huge plays. Really, there was production all over the field. Everybody saw Hutch. I'm just trying to think some of the sleepers. I mean, certainly the offensive line pretty good. I mean, Decker, fought through that whole game with an ankle and produced for us. Frank had a heck of a game, I thought, But I just think there were so many guys that played so well. I think that's hard to answer that. Who really is, there again after 1 week. I know I was proud of the way the core of our group really played. They really stepped up and played off one another.
Your time to prepare for Seattle. Obviously, I know they didn't play their best game yesterday, but what's jumped out at you when you've thrown their tape on as you begin to prepare for them?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's I'm just in the beginning stages of that game from yesterday. But certainly their run game is going to show up. Just the manner at which they like to use that, their system. This Kenneth Walker's pretty good. He certainly has ability, but they run a number of. They're a lot like us, just in regard to. They have a lot of different schemes, the gaps, and inside the gaps, there's 5 different ways to run it with pullers. They have the fast motion blocks. They have the read run and the RPO with Gino, certainly. So, and then they've got weapons, They got Jigba at the slot, who's just he just got his feet wet. This is his first kind of round of it, but then you've got 14 out there who's a heck of a player, and Lockett. So they've got plenty of weapons, the tight ends. And defensively, I thought they held their own for a while, and it just, it got to the point where I think after the injuries, they got a little bit behind the offensive injuries, and the defense was, had gotten a little bit worn down. But this team always presents problems. It's been a thorn in our side for 2 years. And so, we know what's going to be coming in here. We're going to assume the best out of them. And they got after us pretty good last year, real good. So that's something we won't forget.
The injuries, just real quick on their injuries, they lost both their tackles. How do you take advantage of that? Do you expect them to play for them?
Yeah, I don't even want to answer that yet because it's Monday. So I don't know how significant that is. We're assuming they're both going to play until, hopefully we'll know it tomorrow, maybe the day after.
And then you mentioned the crowd. Just what sort of environment do you expect this weekend, home opener? And part 2 of that is, when did you realize maybe that the Lions could have a special, or that this fan base could be special, the home field advantage could be special? Was there something back during your playing days, even though maybe the wins weren't there, that told you that, man, this could be a Ford Field for your
Yeah, I've mentioned this before. My first game ever here as a player, 2006. It was actually Seattle, and I just remember I was not expecting that, and it was loud. It was loud, and I'd been in some loud places and been around, and I was not expecting it, and that was my first eye opener to wow, we get some wins here, and this place will really be on fire. So yeah, I'm expecting it to be loud. I'm expecting, I know what Arrowhead is, and it was loud. I expect it to be louder than that. I really do. I just know our fans. I mean, and it's going to be. It'll be to the point where you can't hear yourself think. So, for them anyway.
Last two, John and Sean. Yeah, you had an opportunity to get your first look at Vaitai after he missed some time last year. What was your assessment of his first time back?
Solid. I thought he stepped up in there. It was the most plays he's had since the injury. I thought he handled them well. He's. I would say it was positive. It was positive. He's got things to clean up as we all do, but. It was a positive showing for him. It's encouraging to see him back out there. He was another one of those players that helped us win that game, especially in the critical moment.
Dan, you mentioned taking control of the game in the fourth quarter. The defense didn't give up a third down conversion in the second half. What are the differences this year from a year ago that allows your defense to go in on the road and win the game, basically?
With the team or with our defense? Look, I just think there's so many things that we talked about doing. I think it's a number of things. First of all, AG had a heck of a game plan. We did a couple of little things different than we've done. We'd worked them, but that we know we wanted to use against Kansas City. I think our fundamentals up front really showed up too. That's two. Fundamentally, Mac and Benito and Pascal and Kamish and Hutch and Houston, like all of those guys, you could see our fundamentals really showed up. And I felt like that made a difference, our front versus their front. And then the back end, we just, we're better equipped to handle some things that are going on back there. We have guys that if something breaks down, we have some pretty aware, instinctive players that can make up for some things when the play gets long, and I think the combination of all that makes us better.
Do you think your defense looks a little faster
Sure.
overall?
We are faster. Yeah, we are faster overall. I know we are. We play faster. We have guys that have outstanding play speed, because they see it and they pull the trigger quickly.
That's Branch in particular. Like he was a lot faster than his time. So
Yeah. Well, CJ, Hutch, Barnes, Alex. I mean, they play fast. Those guys all play fast. So, Yep.